Good morning. I did read a statement in the House this morning on the state of Kings Wharf, but I wanted the people of Bermuda to see those who are responsible for the delivery of Kings Wharf. We had slightly shorter than 5 months in which to demolish a pier, demolish a building, and build a new one. And we were able to accomplish that. The consequences of not meeting that deadline would have been a $500,000 per visit penalty should a cruise ship not have a pier to berth at. And so joining me today are the cast of the Kings Wharf miracle, I'll call them. And so I'll start, well, we're not in the order in which I printed, so I'll start with at my far right. On my far right is the structural engineer, Mr. Austin Kenny. Next to him is the general manager of Redco, Mr. Andrew Diaz. Next to him is the chief architect. I shouldn't call you that, isn't it? She's just the magic maker. That's Ms. Carmen Trott. She was the project manager for this exercise. Directly behind me to my left is Mr. Charles Crisson, who's the proprietor of Crisson Construction and Contractors. Next to him is Tabia Butterfield. I got it right, I think, pronunciation. She's a bursary student of ours and studying to be a surveyor. And then finally, to the far left is the chief engineer, Mr. Yves Borblorty. I really just want to say a few things, and then I'm going to ask them to say something, because I always get an opportunity to say two things, really. One, that this is phase one, the construction of this pier. Phase two really is to extend the pier by 100 feet on either side of the buildings. That'll come at a later stage. It has no impact whatsoever on our ability to cater to the larger cruise ships. What it will do is to provide for better housekeeping of those ships that come generally with 4 gangways, and so we'll be able to service sewage and water and that sort of thing without having to utilize the gangway that's used by passengers. And I guess my two more things. One is that as far as I'm concerned, and as far as we are concerned in the Ministry of Public Works, this is the gold standard for meeting timelines within this ministry on time and on budget. And I have said to others in other areas of the ministry and every other project that we have that if they can't manage it, I'm going to bring one of the A-team to manage it for them. So you can imagine what their response is. They're upping their game, and it's precisely what we want. There are several pictures around the room that sort of take us from the old building to what we have now. That you're quite happy and welcome to have a look at. So I'm going to call on and they had no notice, so we'll see how responsive they are. I'm going to call on Carmen first, who's the project manager, to report. Ms. Trott, over to you. Tell them how you were gonna get it.
Yeah, so it was a good project, challenging a lot of different issues that we had to deal with. But basically, from the beginning, when we got Mr. Crisson on board with the Crisson Construction, his team is awesome. They dig in, and we did a lot of problem solving along with his engineering team from Brunel. And the team that we assembled here behind myself with Austin Kenny and the chief engineer supported us all the way through our different challenges. And that would be from procuring the precast elements and bringing them over to Bermuda, and even just demolition, the weather conditions. It was a lot to deal with, but we stayed positive and we just stayed in a forward motion. We knew that our deadline had to be met, and we just really were focused on ensuring that what we did deliver was a quality project. So, is that good for you?
Yeah.
Sorry?
No, we're going to have 2 other people speak first.
Thank you.
And then you can ask questions of whomever you like. 3 other people, actually. You're next.
All I want to say is thank you for the opportunity to work with these great people, and the fact that we got it done on time and on budget, I guess, speaks for itself. Thank you.
GM.
I guess what we take away from this is the coordination between the ministry, the contractors, and also the Quangos. It was wonderful to work together, and hopefully there's more of this to come. So I enjoyed working with everyone, even at the end with all the asphalt crew and everyone that was sweeping up last minute when the ship was coming down the channel. It was fun, and we'll do it again. Thank you.
Chief?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, yes, that was a good project, and our standards in project management, like I mentioned and the minister mentioned in the House, Carmen Trott is one of the best project manager I work with. And she, when you have a team like that, I'm just like the cheerleader of that team. So it was just like to make sure that they are cheered during the work. But one element that is very important, and I mentioned that in the past, we're lucky to have our minister. At what point in the project we were late by, let's say, 3 weeks, and we got like a full support of our minister. Like at the end of the day, we will stand as one team, winning or losing. Where I come from Canada, those politicians are not totally like that. Like I heard in the past, they might run for the hills when we get into problems. So when we have a good team and you work together, that's teamwork. That's all it is. And that's why we were able to deliver this project on time. So now we learn, and now for the next phase or the next project, we will be able to save money and make project on time and on budget. That's our goal. Thank you.
Well done.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
May I start with the
Sure.
project manager?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, is it Ms. Trott?
Yes.
The minister went through great pains to stress that you're like the female in charge. I see that you're surrounded by testosterone. I just would like a general comment as a woman heading up this project in a man's world. How you made up without causing negativity, of course.
Actually, it's a unique position to be in. As you say, when I sat at the head of the table weekly for our meetings and chaired them on, I was surrounded by males. But what I found is that as long as you're respectful of the males and all of that type of stuff and just direct, men tend to want to be a bit more direct. So you just give them that sort of thing and just, I found that it was okay. But I do attribute my success in the male environment to my 30 years in the regiment. I've been in the regiment band since 1989, so clarinet. So I think that that sort of background has always helped me in the very male-dominated field of engineering.
You came from the same place as Colonel.
Yes, he was my colonel at one point in my youth. So yes.
Okay, and Mr. Christen, if you don't mind, I live in Somerset, so I heard the noise without causing negativity. There were some people in the industry who had some concerns about safety issues with regards to that crane and people looking out. When it comes to the day-to-day, what can you say to speak to that?
Well, we didn't have any real safety issues up there. And whenever you're doing a project of this size and you have 3 cranes working, you got to be paying attention and the whole team has to work together. I mean, we did have to do method statements for all the operations. It was safe.
And I take it these operates are ongoing, so what's the next plan?
That would be.
Well, no, the pier is finished and can function and is functioning. What we did take advantage of in this was being able to strengthen its capacity to deal with the larger cruise ships, and so we're able to accommodate them. The next phase really is a cosmetic and a housekeeping one. What happens now is some of the larger cruise ships are larger than the pier that we have, and so their service entrances don't have a pier. And so what it means is that the garbage and any other sort of stuff that has to be taken off of the ship they have to coordinate it between passengers and that. And so what we're trying to do is to create a first-class port so that we have access for them to be able to service the vessels without any impact on passengers.
And just for my purposes, because you know the tit-for-tat mentality of our reporting.
Yes.
Those critics who say, all those course overruns and Kings Wharf was a disaster, even though were it not for that port being built by Dr. Braun to
Yes.
accommodate big
Yes.
ships, you say
Well, what I say is that we wouldn't have an industry if we didn't have those piers built, and that in these sorts of projects, you expect to have cost overruns. As you will have heard in the House in my statement, we at one stage were 3 weeks behind. And there were some people in this conversation, none of the people here, who were panicking. And and you will have also heard me say that we had a plan A, B, C, and D, obviously, and a nuclear option. Obviously, if we went to the nuclear option, that would have meant more costs. But I was prepared to do that because you balance what you're spending in terms of being able to meet a deadline with the penalty that you're going to face. When you're facing a $500,000 penalty for every ship that cannot dock, you got a built-in incentive. Now, I have the built-in incentive because I'm going to stand at the podium and take the praise or the critics. What has been very comforting for me and very gratifying for me is that the team took that on too, in the sense that they owned this project. It was personal to them in terms of their personal integrity, their professionalism. They wanted to be able to stand up and say, and they have been able to, we did this. We did this within a time frame that not everybody could have managed within those, less than 5.5 months.
For those Bermudians who have selective memory, who live in islands surrounded by salt water, clearly it's going to need upgrades again, sort of
Yes.
like a mold issue. When you don't open windows,
Yes.
you say what?
What I say is that the steps that we've taken in this case, this pier is about 30 years old, the one that was demolished. Okay? So what I say, because this is the first of the piers in Dockyard, so there was Kings Wharf before there was a Heritage. What I say to them is that we have taken advantage of the advances in technology and expertise to extend the life of this pier to 75 years. And when I first heard that, I think Bob will attest, I said, say that number again, because it didn't sound realistic. But I've learned from reading the information and having it confirmed that 75 years is what we expect out of this exercise. And that's as a result of not any criticism of anybody who built the last dock, but of the advances in technology and the fact that we've taken advantage of them, and we've learned from that exercise. What I will say for those people who think we can't manage money is that in 2014, this work was estimated to cost $20 million. In 2018-19, based on the advances in technology and the work that this team did before we even started building, the budget for this project is $15 million. So if you want to count numbers, right, starting off from jump, we've saved $5 million. Okay, and that includes not just the pier that you see, but if you look around at the picture of the new building that's going up, I think it's twice the size of the last building, and we'll have more features in it, and that is going apace. And so in July, you'll have a new building that's included in the cost of the $15 million to replace this entity. This is going to be our standard going forward. As long as I have this responsibility, we are determined to, first of all, budget accurately, make allowances for the unexpected, but as much as possible, stay within the budget that we've estimated, because otherwise it brings into question our ability to count. And in my book, the only people that in this country that have challenges with counting are those that go to the Berkeley Institute. That's been my experience.
Any other questions from members of the media?
Yeah.
Jonathan, do
I
you
have
have a
one
question?
question. It's a little off topic. I can wait or I can do it now.
It's what?
It's
To do
a bit of a
this?
divergent question. It's another public works initiative. I can do it.
Afterwards.
So we just had a quick question regarding the Hamilton Police Station. There was a great idea 6 months back to have the arbitration center, but obviously with the building, the shape it's in, it's a bit of a tall order to fix it up. Can you update us if there's any plan for that building or if the arbitration center is going to...
Well, let me start with saying that it's not a bit of a tall order to fix it up. That's the first thing, because if that was the case, I would have knocked it down. And so what we have done is to have surveyors assess the building, and its integrity is in fact sound. What we have done so far is to gut the entire building, so all of the partitions and all of the units have come out of it. The next phase is to remove the cells, and that's a major project. I don't know if you've ever been in there, but there's about 8 cells that are cast iron, and so you need welders in order to be able to do that. That is the next phase. We have initial design drawings for the building, for the arbitration center, that will include the extension of the building over that sally port where there is the big gate now and going to the back of the other building. What that will do is to allow us to install an elevator. It doesn't have an elevator at the moment. And so rather than have to reconfigure the building as it exists, on the outside of that building we will install an elevator so that you have that ability, and we will extend the floor space. So we still are a couple of years away from its actual opening and getting there, but we are moving forward with the project.